In the winter of 1959, 9 experienced skiers and hikers set out to explore the northern Ural Mountains in Russia. But when they failed to return from their trip, a search party was sent out to find them only to discover something that would send shockwaves throughout the world. Hi, I'm your host. And today we're exploring the mysterious death of the Dyatlov Pass. Let's begin. In February 1959, a group of 9 Soviet skiers and hikers set off into the northern Ural Mountains. On February, after several days of skiing, they made camp near the northwest slope of Mount Otorten. The next morning, however, the weather had taken a turn for the worse with heavy snowfall and high winds. The sun shone brightly through the clouds, giving the impression that everything was fine, which made it all the more bizarre when a search party arrived at the campsite and found the tent sliced open from the inside. Of the 9 bodies discovered, 4 were found close to the tent and 5 were further down the hill. The conditions in which they were found would forever change the course of this investigation. Why had someone attacked the group? And why had they mutilated their faces? The answers, it seemed, would never be found. At first, this was assumed to be the result of a panicked exit during the storm. But what's perhaps most disturbing is that most of the bodies exhibited signs of severe trauma. All of the bodies showed signs of prolonged suffering, indicating that they had been conscious for some time before dying. What then could have caused this horrific scene? Several of the bodies had significant injuries to the head and face, while others had chest wounds consistent with having been caused by a sharp object. Others said that they were the victims of a secret bioweapon test. While on the mountain, they had stumbled across a creature from the woods, something big, hairy and hostile, which had attacked them and dragged them down the mountain. That much was certain. But this led to another question: how did they die? But the deeper we look into this case, the more it seems like a tragic accident. What's more, some of the members of the group had major internal injuries, which would have likely killed them instantly. And yet their extremities, such as their hands and feet, were completely frozen. This indicates that they had died very quickly, ruling out hypothermia. There are several pieces of evidence which point to this conclusion. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my video on the mystery of the Mary Celeste. Until next time, thanks for watching. For example, all of the group's clothing and equipment was found at the scene, as was half-eaten food. This indicated that they had been in the process of camping when whatever had befallen them had occurred. Even today, files relating to the incident remain sealed, and much of the evidence has been withheld from the public. We still don't know what truly happened at Dyatlov Pass. Some even went as far as to say that the creature had cannibalized the group, taking its revenge on the unprepared intruders. Even more said that they had stumbled across a forbidden archaeological site that shouldn't have been there. And when the authorities tried to cover it up, the group had been killed. In fact, many believed that the group were victims of something far more sinister. Initially, they focused on external factors such as the avalanche and the extreme cold. Perhaps the group had been caught in an avalanche and their mangled bodies had been hidden under the snow. But this theory was soon disproven because not only would an avalanche have killed them instantly, but it wouldn't have left their bodies exposed months later. Today, we often hear about such accidents happening in the wilderness with groups suffering from hypothermia and being found frozen in odd positions. In these cases, when the body is frozen, it becomes rigid. When the temperature rises, such as when the sun shines, the body can suddenly become unfrozen and slump over, which may explain the strange poses of some of the victims. One woman had a large and deep gash across her face, removing part of her nose, while another woman had part of her skull completely ripped off. These wounds were not consistent with anything the group could have encountered in the wilderness. They also weren't consistent with any animal attack. And so it seemed likely that they had been inflicted by another human. But when no sign of the group could be found, the search continued. So they decided to move to a new location down the slope in a place known as the Dead Mountain. It was here where they would pitch their tent and await better weather. The group consisted of 3 couples: Yuri and Zara, Balbinu, Krivonushenko and Sloboda, Zolotarov and Dorosheva, all of whom were in their 20s, as well as their instructor, Igor Dyatlov, and another older man named Rustam Sloboda. When the morning arrived, it was bright and sunny, but the wind had become even more intense. By lunchtime, the wind had reached speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, and as the storm worsened, they decided to cut their stay short and hike back up the mountain to their previous camp, believing that the conditions would be less severe there. Their plan was to ski across the northern Ural Mountains, an area at the time little explored by humans and largely unknown, to see if they could make it all the way through. By February, the group had made it quite far and were nearing the end of their journey. But the next day, things took a turn for the worst. As night fell, the storm raged on, causing avalanches and lots of loose snow, but the following morning, it had finally stopped. On February, 2 days after the group were reported missing, rescue teams discovered their bodies scattered around the mountainside. Most of the group were found completely naked except for their socks, and some of them had lost their heads. However, a subsequent investigation revealed no evidence of violence or struggle at the scene, and none of the bodies showed signs of alcohol or drugs. This didn't make sense. And yet, despite the brutality of the crime, many people believed that this may not have been the true cause of death. The Dyatlov Pass incident became an overnight sensation in Russia, and the government quickly intervened, sending in forensic experts and investigators to uncover what had happened. It seemed likely that they had died of hypothermia, but an autopsy would prove this to be false. Soon, conspiracy theories began to emerge. Some said that the group had been the victims of a secret military experiment gone wrong. Then there were those who said that the group hadn't been murdered at all, but had instead been the victims of something far more terrifying. One thing was certain, though: these people had not died in an avalanche, and they had not died of hypothermia. In the weeks and months following the incident, the Soviet authorities did everything they could to contain the story, going as far as to threaten anyone who spoke about it. But one thing is clear. The authorities want us to believe that this was a tragic accident, but this doesn't explain the deep facial wounds or the fact that the group had stripped naked. And when scientists examined the clothing of the group, they found that most of the group had been wearing just one layer of clothing, meaning that they had probably become cold very quickly. What really happened at Dyatlov Pass may never be known. But what we do know is that whatever happened, it was terrifying.